everything you think you know about Ho Chi Minh. If you've heard of him at all, younger generation probably have never heard of him, but he was the leader of the North Vietnamese during the Vietnam War. But everything that we know about him in the West is probably wrong and has been influenced by just decades, generations of propaganda. Here's a guy who, when he was 19 years old, went to the Paris Peace Conference just after World War I, 1919, to present a petition to the US President Woodrow Wilson asking him to support the end of French colonization of Vietnam, or Indochina as it was called then. Wilson was talking about his 14 points for a better world, leading up to the creation of the League of Nations. This is before the United Nations. But Wilson ignored him. And so Ho realized that the Americans didn't really take this seriously. The only people who really seemed to be taking freedom of oppressed peoples seriously were the communists in Russia. So he became a communist not out of some great ideology, just because they were the only people willing to help free his people. Then he spends the next decades and decades of his life fighting a series of wars in his homeland to try and free his people. First from the Japanese during World War II. After that, it was given back to the French by the West. So then he had to fight the French, and then the Americans came in to support the French, and he had to fight the Americans. He spent most of his life living in jungles, in caves, living hand to mouth, no level of comfort, knowing that he and probably all of his generation were going to die fighting for their freedom. But he said, you know what? It's worth it. Even if millions of us have to die in this struggle, our children or our grandchildren or our great grandchildren may have self-determination and freedom, and that's a price that we're willing to pay. He dies in 1969, 6 years before the Vietnam War finally ends, and his people do get that freedom and self-determination. He's kind of like Asia's Nelson Mandela, dedicated his entire life to freeing his people from oppression. The only reason we think of him as a villain in the West today instead of a hero like Mandela is that we were on the losing side. We were fighting to continue the oppression of those people, not supporting their freedom.